Well, you know, when we look at strategies, there are theoretical frameworks that people talk about, but the practice is not always the same as what you have in theory. Because when we look at the theories, a good number of them do not remember that we are human and we have emotions, we have fears, we have prejudices and stuff like that. So when we say what strategies have we used, I would say perhaps we've only done one thing and we've done it well, and that is we've made up our mind as a company to always create value. We understand the fact that the world belongs to people who know how to solve problems. And just as long as we remain in that space, we are safe. Now, that's a very broad thing, because yes, indeed, in 1993, we had a business plan. We spent 1 year, Philip and I, developing a business plan for this company. We had 1 whole year. 1st of March 1993, we had a meeting that we were going to start business 1st of March 1994. And that's exactly what we did. 1 year transition, 1 year putting the strategy document together, but when you start, when you get into the field, what you are going to see is definitely going to be different from what you have documented. However, one thing that doesn't change is our why. And the why is to ensure that we make it very clear and abundantly so that we may be black, we are not stupid. We have the capacity to solve our own problems. We have the capacity to create value on an ongoing basis. And that's what has kept us running from 1st of March 1994 till today. And I trust that even when I transit as the CEO of this company and when I'm no longer alive, that same mantra will continue to drive us as a business. It's absolutely low, perhaps in almost every area of our lives. But that's not all bad news, because it's getting better. When we started business 27 years ago, nobody trusted us. Nobody believed that we could even do anything close to what we have done today. But our own achievement and my own pride is not in the fact that, oh, PFS has developed good applications that are now running, world over. But my biggest achievement, my biggest joy is that many companies have evolved, and many of them are doing a lot better than even us today, and they are Nigerian, and they are creating this value. However, we still have lots of challenges in the society, because you see, when you have this kind of situation, it stands on the tripod. One is the technology or technological advancement, the capacity to do it. That's just one. Secondly, do we have legislative framework around it? And many countries in the world have this kind of things. They have policies, they have legislations to ensure that certain kind of industries, I don't want to use the word protected, but for lack of a better word, are protected and are kept going. And then the third leg of the tripod is social. How does the society accept what you are doing? Now that third tripod is very important. Although it can be influenced by policy, it can also be influenced in a way by the technological advancement or the product. But that is the biggest challenge, because those who should even make the policies to make it happen, how much do they believe? Now the mantra that we know is that human beings, generally speaking, we are limited. We tend to judge others by our own capacity. We tend to judge others by what we know. We tend to judge others by what we can do or by who we are. And so we realize that a lot of the people who are in position to make policies and legislation, unfortunately, have never had opportunities to create value. And so their thinking is that nobody can create value. And so that automatically shuts down the capacity to put policies and legislations in place that ensure that we can do certain things. And I will give examples, if you permit me. Even at the very highest levels, and I mean even you sit with people in cabinets, when they hear the word that you used, local, what they hear, what they interpret is inferior. They are not able to comprehend that something local can be world class. But what they fail to understand is that every product, every company that becomes global started locally. And actually, there are few exceptions. But actually, most of the companies that you see that have become giants, take a look at the Huawei's, take a look at the Microsofts, take a look at the Googles, take a look at the Facebooks. They started in local communities. And they grew because their localities permitted them to do so. But we continually build a system that shuts down our own in preference for foreigners. That's the biggest fear that I have. But as an industry, I would say the tech industry is maturing. We could do a lot more than we are doing, I know that. But you see, the beauty of the tech industry is that people have understood that we can take our destinies into our own hands. We don't need to depend on what government or what even our local environment can do. So you are seeing what's going on. You see young Nigerian gentlemen and ladies, they come up with ideas and the ideas can be promoted globally and they are able to raise funds globally. Now, it's a double-edged sword. It's good, it's bad. It's good because at least, just like you asked, these gentlemen and ladies are able to showcase their talents that would have died. They are now being given fuel, howbeit by foreigners. And that's extremely bad. Because what we have now done is that we have opened our doors once again to foreign control. And I really fear that in a few years' time, this is going to become a colony. I think we're already a colony. I can see that already. But perhaps some people have not seen it. But just in a few years, all of us will see that we are back to some form of colony. The answer is yes. And I mean, look, so people, generally speaking, are not likely to put in their life savings into something they don't know. See, we are human beings. So human beings, we have been trained to fear what we don't know. And the kind of society that we live in is one that's trying to build wealth without knowledge. And that's very risky. Take a look at the world today. People want to build wealth without knowledge. And I don't blame them. This is what they have been used to. Nigeria, a land flowing with milk and honey. You know, there's a general mantra that you cannot sow where you cannot reap where you did not sow. But that's not in Nigeria. Because you know it that if your wife prepares, pepper and just pour the water. By the second day, you're going to see pepper growing. You didn't deliberately sow, you can reap it. That's how wealth of Nigeria came. Money coming out of the ground. That's how the leaders of this country have known the country to be. The country has never evolved from a knowledge standpoint because we have endowed with a lot of resources. So it's easy for the leaders to want to always sit back. Money is not our problem, but how to spend it. But that's extremely dangerous because you see, even our brains are like muscles. If you fail to exercise it, it will collapse. And I see, generally speaking, a complete collapse of intellectual capacity in very senior places in Nigeria. And that's why when you see a Nigerian coming to say, listen, I can do something, create something out of nothing, we are not used to saying that. We are used to seeing concrete things, money coming out of the ground. And so it's difficult for people to shift that kind of focus. So if I say I want to build a factory, for example, oh, they can see the land, they can see the building. But the new world, I mean, you take a look, I mean, you can look, even the old world, right before us, you can see. You say you want to invest in a farm, they are happy because they can see the land, they can see the trees, cocoa trees that you are planting, or the palm trees. But that's not where the value is. And take a look at what we are doing. Say we are doing anchor borers for rice. You can see those. But guess what? How many cocoa trees do you see in Switzerland? You plant so many cocoa trees there, but the price of your cocoa is determined in London. Switzerland doesn't plant, even their climate doesn't permit it. But their necessity became the mother of their own invention to use their brains to process it. They make chocolates. When you make chocolates, it's not subject to regulations of commodity markets. And so they make a lot more money from that. Take a look at Singapore. How many barrels of crude do they produce in Singapore? They don't have any. But see what's going on there. They have learned to create wealth out of nothing. And that determines. So if you take a look, for example, today at the Singapore sovereign wealth, take a look at it, I follow it. See what's going on there. It's building up, it's adding up. Why? Take a look at what kind of investments they are doing. They are investing in knowledge. Take a look at what we are doing around here. We continue to invest in brick and mortar. But that's not our fault. It's because we have not had people yet who are able to lead us away from the pedestrian economy and from the pedestrian society that we've lived in for so long. My prayer is that this will change soon. But I want to say that if it doesn't change, it's only a matter of years before this becomes a nuclear testing site for the world. Because you're not going to produce anything that matters to the world. I'm the immediate past president, so I still am in council. And we still had a council meeting less than 2 weeks ago. This came up. For many years, I mean, the current president is the 6th president. I was the 5th president. For over 20 years, ISPON has always been in the forefront of that. But the question is, we don't have the power to do so. The power that we have is the power of persuasion and engagement. And ISPON continues to do that. The current president is extremely passionate about that as well. And I say, actually, all his predecessors. But you see, it's a fight of good against evil sometimes. It's extremely difficult to persuade people who think they are rich, but they don't know how poor they actually are, that they can actually have a lot more. I mean, because if you take a look at the average person who will be necessary to convince about this kind of legislation, he sits in his Mercedes, bought by the wealth of this country. He has 3 square meals a day. He doesn't even know there's poverty in the country. And where's the money coming from? Natural resources. So when you come and tell him, give him a vision of something that's going to happen, he doesn't even want to understand it. He's extremely comfortable where he is. So it's a very uphill task. And because, unfortunately, we have not been able to create many success stories that are local, that have the firepower to match them, it's difficult. But one thing we believe is that it may take time. Actually, even if little drops of water keep dropping on a piece of rock, it's a matter of time, the rock will chip. So we continue to say that continues to be our service, if not to us, to our children and our children's children. Because what we are talking about to people who are in Eastbourne and who've been in Eastbourne, it's a no-brainer. We've seen other countries do the same thing before our very eyes. And we keep asking ourselves, why is it so difficult for the leaders of this country to understand it? It's a big challenge. I think the biggest and most exciting products in the company is the one that has not even come out yet. Because you see, that biggest asset to us, the power to create new things out of nothing that existed. And that's the biggest excitement to us every day that we come here. So for us in PFS, our excitement is not in the successes of the past at all. Our excitement is in the possibilities of the future when given the opportunity. I don't say if, because it's a matter of when. However, we should say that that may be esoteric to us. Not many people might be able to get excited when they hear about that. So we might want to talk about 1, 2 products. Actually, funny enough, while we were having our 27th year anniversary, that question came up, and we came to a conclusion that there's no living being that knows all the products that this company has created, including myself. Because it's impossible until we now start getting to the archives. Oh, we actually did this. Why? Because some of the products were not successful, some became successful. Yeah, I mean, that's normal. That's the meaning of innovation. Innovation is about trying things. Some will fail. You try another one, you find another way of doing it, and that's the way we want to do it. That's what we want to continue to do. And that's why PFS, we don't blame people for failing. Rather, we ask, what did you learn? So that's the way it is. However, there are products that we have done that have become successful. Some of them have put us on the global map that make us play like a global company, and we are very proud of that. Take a look, for example, at the ACH switch, the association, the automated clearinghouse switch that's run by NIBS. It's a product that's designed 100%, designed, developed, implemented, and being supported together with NIBS. Everything from the stable of this company. It's absolutely world class. It's world class. All the major players in the world have come to ask, because they also know if it works, there are only 2 markets that the world players are looking at, Nigeria and India. If it works in Nigeria, it works in India, we have done it in Nigeria. Proudly Nigerian, 100%. We didn't need any foreign assistance to get it done. That's something that we are proud of. We say again, no brainer. We have always been sure we could do it. The doubters at that time thought it wasn't possible. Well, today everybody is wiser for it. Nigeria is respected for it. We are proud of it. One of them, we have a beautiful reconciliation software as well. We call it Clyrec. Lovely, simple solution that does accounts reconciliation. Globally acclaimed, rated best in the world actually. 2 years ago by which of these, the rating agencies, I'm trying to remember their name now. I'll get the name, but very reputable rating agency, not a local rating agency. And if you look at the basis for their rating, Bob's Guide, that's their name. If you look at the basis for their rating, it's transparent, not somebody asking us to come and pay for the rating. And they have their comparison. But that came, it didn't come to us as a surprise. Because you know, it's easy to know if you are running a race and you are second in the race, right? And you overtake the first person. What will be your position? You know, you are first actually. That's been the case. So we've seen the applications that we have actually been in competition with in that space before. We've met them in several international bids and we've never lost to them. So we already knew that we had something that was world class, that was good. But then we have, some stamps to say, we don't wait for such stamps anyway. The stamps that we wait for is how do our clients feel? How do the people that we work with, how do they feel? Have we made their lives better? Have we made them wowed? Once we get that, and then they challenge us to do more, that is enough gratification for us, not a rating agency. Because we know for sure, when the clients are happy, it means the product is healthy. And when that happens, of course, expectedly the rating agencies will rate you well. My greatest motivation is just seeing those little tiny contributions that I put into it together with the rest of my colleagues here, and seeing how it's transforming the lives of people and makes people happy. That's the biggest gratification for me. If I unpack that, one of the things I said about PFS when we started from day one, and it will remain so as long as I'm the captain, it's not about money making. By the way, people have sufficient money to keep themselves tidy around here. But those are not conversations that we should have. I think those are mediocre and pedestrian conversations. The real conversations here is how many successful replicas have I created? And I'm so happy about that. Lots of times, people I don't even remember, I don't know them because, you can imagine how many people have passed through this institution for 27 years. That means successfully well. They become top people in global companies and they started their career here. That makes me happy. That makes me glad. See young men, young ladies, even in Nigeria, who are starting great companies, better companies than mine. That's my joy. That's my pride. Just as long as we can create more people who can create value, I remain a happy person. That's what gets me out of my bed every day. It's good to have money. By the way, I'm not poor. Nobody here is poor. And I'm not afraid to say so. But those are pedestrian conversations. Real conversations is how do we raise society to the level that God has taken us. And that's what I will continue to do until the day God calls me home. Yes, a lot is going on there right now. When we started, we said it, that we were going to be a global company. And I remember those days when the company started from my dining table in my flat. And I would wake up in the morning and wear a suit and not my tie and look at the mirror and I would say, I'm the CEO of the most influential software house in Africa. We didn't know how it would happen. But now we are beginning to see it play before our very eyes. And the strategy is very simple. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. We just need to see what other companies that have done this before us have done and adapt it. And what's the strategy? We are working using channel partners in very many countries. And that's the biggest mandate I've given to my colleagues here. Because we cannot have boots in every country, but we can have troops in every country. And that's what we are doing. A whole lot of resources are going to be required for that. But when the value is there, the resources will always follow. So we have no doubt about our ability to have access to the resources that we require to do it.